Welcome to the Executive Outlook. Today we have a very special guest. Priya is an angel investor, board advisor, award winning data and AI executive, and former CDO with a proven track record of guiding teams from inception to IPO. She is widely known for her unique ability to bridge the strategic gaps between the business objective and the IT execution. Welcome to the Executive Outlook.
Thank you, Isha, for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Thank you so much. I am very excited to know that how you started in this field of data and AI.
That's a great question. And probably it is going to take me back to almost 20 years, not to date my age, but I sometimes say this was an accidental journey. Coming from India, I have done my bachelor's in electronics and communications engineering. However, accidentally, I fell into this area and I started developing love towards data because the minute I started seeing the impact of data in businesses, how it can create value, that's when I fell in love with data. And that's how my journey started. And since then, I have been part of a lot of transformative projects across the organizations that I worked at. Predominantly, I have stayed in financial services and fintech. And one of the organizations that I worked was Santander Consumer USA, which is the only auto subsidiary for Santander Bank, which is a global bank. But there, I have been part of several mergers and acquisitions, and the leadership leaned on me to handle that migrations, and most of it was done through data. And one thing I learned during that process was it's not only about data and technology, it's also about people. Right? So a lot of these transformation projects are successful because there is strong alignment between people, data, technology. Since then, there's no boundaries for my career in data and AI. I have been on this journey and enjoying it, loving it, and can't wait to do more impactful stuff in this area. I'm at a stage in my career where I feel that leadership is not just about the value created for the businesses, but it's also about impact, purpose, and collaboration, and taking the people along the way while you are growing. So happy to dive in.
Thank you so much. And that's an absolute right statement. It is about the value. So, as we are on this topic, when are working in the data and AI field, and you mentioned about the fintech industry. So, what are the use cases which you have solved, which actually has created the business impact?
That's such a great question. It is going to unpack a lot of stuff from my experience. Even though I cannot share exact use cases or examples, but I can talk about my experience. So throughout my journey and while creating value for businesses, my philosophy has been very simple, right? Treating data as a strategic asset, not a byproduct. Governance as an enabler, not a blocker. And AI as augmentation, not a replacement. That simple philosophy has guided me along the way. And to answer your question, how I have created value to businesses using those AI data and AI use cases, right? Most of the time, if I take the recent example from my recent company, Reprise Financial, where I worked at as VP of EDM and Chief Data Officer, we scaled our company from 0 to 150 million in just 1 year. We today, Reprise's portfolio is around 2.7 billion. That was not an easy task. We scaled from a startup to national reach by tying every single data project and data initiative to a clear business outcome. Name it faster service, faster approvals, less fraud, and also detecting fraud in real time and better customer experiences. When I talk about experiences for customer, it's every touch point. You name it, like email, text, or any communication that we have with customer, we have checks and balances there. And we make sure that we are aligned on our strategy when it comes to our top line growth or reducing risk or reducing expenses. So I have a simple framework that I have applied in my recent organization that basically created that value. I call it as 3A framework. Very simple. So basically, first one is aligning everything that we do with business goals. Basically aligning with business goals and architecting the solution for scale. We have to architect the solutions not only for solving the problem today, not only for serving the organizations for today, but think about the future, how you can scale them very quickly and effortlessly for future growth. And the third one is adapt as priorities evolve. because I'm not sure, how the startup goes. Even larger enterprises, everyone wants to see the value yesterday. Everyone wants to catch up on the technologies evolving. Adapting to business priorities is something I have always learned and I have always kept on top of my list, because when we are evolving with business, we are also showing the value of our data initiatives, data projects, data budgets. So when leaders see how data drives revenue, cost savings, and risk reduction, that's when the transformation sticks.
That's amazing. So, another question, I'm very excited to deep dive into this. You mentioned about that the customer experience. And the startup and mid-scale enterprises always want to have these metrics, increase in the customer satisfaction, increase in the experience of the customers, right? So how can downstream impact, how we can actually reverse engineer it to make it happen? Like, this is the business outcome we want to achieve, and how should we reverse engineer it in order to make this possible?
That's such a meaningful question, because a lot of the times we talk about transformation, right? But that's such an overused word, but always aligning to business outcome. So, for example, if you want to increase the number of leads, you got to know where we are at today. What is our current state? And what is our future state? Where do we want to go from A to B, and what percentage we want to increase our leads? Having that goal, also having that clarity is very important. When the leadership has that clarity, that's called the vision, right? So what do we want to achieve? And then there should be a clarity and also communication, not only at the leadership level. It has to be top down. Everybody in your organization has to know, hey, what is our goal? How do we connect our work, our day-to-day work, to that vision? That's when the connection happens. When that connection happens, everything else is kind of like a miracle. It happens. But to answer your question specifically, right, how do you backtrack and connect that vision to the execution? That's where the management, that's where your team members come together. They look at the problem. Hey, how can we increase this lead percentage? That's a business problem. Then you break it down. Okay, what we can do? What are the possible solutions? I usually don't look at for just one solution to solve a problem. I explore the possible solutions and come discuss and explore with the teams. That's where people are getting excited about solving that particular problem for the business. When that alignment happens, you get to see a lot more solutions coming into place. And that's when you're connecting. Hey, once you know what's the solution, then you go back and look at what are our existing technology tracks? What are our technology platforms? How many people do we have? Do we have the right skill set? That's when everything happens, right? Then you talk about, hey, okay, we may need a skill alignment. We may need to upskill our people. We may need to purchase a new software, new platforms. This hybrid technology stacks where we have both legacy systems and cloud. How can we take this legacy data into cloud? How do we connect that data together in one unified platform for users to actually unlock the value? There is so much happens, but at the end of the day, I would say that there should be an alignment. Going back to my earlier philosophy, it's always having that alignment, and communication for the entire organization is going to unlock that value for business.
So, where does the governance come into picture when we are designing these processes?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think I can talk for hours together on this topic for time's sake. So I want to say governance often seen as a blocker or a red tape, and also it has bad reputation, right? But in reality, I feel that it's a backbone of trust. So in my experience, we built governance and data quality checks right into the process, not after the fact. It's part of the build itself. When we are working on a data initiative or a project, which is again aligned to the business outcome, we schedule the data checks. We have those quality checks in place right from the get-go. The moment the data lands in our landscape, whether data coming from external sources or internal applications, we are already validating and monitoring it. That's when the trust cycle starts. Once our business starts trusting our data and they start creating insights out of the data and create the value for business, that's the trust cycle. When the data is trusted, business has the trust cycle started, and that's when we can unlock the business. And these checks aren't just the technical steps, they're directly tied to the business goals and outcomes. Going back to the example earlier that we talked about, increasing the lead rate, right? you got to bring the data in and have those real-time monitoring checks in place, so that as the data is coming into your systems, you're already monitoring and also real-time applying those insights and providing those insights to the business. Every data initiative we take on is aligned with business value. And governance like simply ensures that the value is delivered with accuracy, integrity, and trust. Because I feel that they are the backbone for our business.
So, suppose you have been given a role in a new organization as a chief data officer and your data is messed. Stakeholders are not able to trust the data. So, what would be your steps in order to make it worthy for the business?
That is such an important question, because I feel like most of the organizations are in this state, hopefully not, but things are changing. I mentioned about governance and quality checks, even though it was seen as a blocker, red tape, and a boring stuff. But now organizations are prioritizing governance so that they can unlock the business value through data. So coming back to your question, when I step into a new organization as a chief data officer, first thing I would do is understanding the business vision, mission, and also talking to the stakeholders, talking to them and getting to know what is their pain points, what is keeping them up at night. That's where my conversation would start, right? That's when I would understand what are the processes that business has using the data and what are the struggles. And that will unlock a lot of questions and a lot of issues that an organization has. And that's when I would focus on, hey, do I start? Which problem I would solve? There may be a small problem that I can quickly solve and get that quick win. There is that biggest challenge that business has been putting it in the back burner to solve. If I solve that problem, that can actually unlock a great value for the data strategy as a chief data officer. It depends on the organization. It depends on maturity of the organization as well, right? If they're a startup, then strategy would be different. If they're mid-level, the strategy would be different. In a larger organizations where teams are kind of siloed based on their function, the strategy would be different. But again, going back to the core concept where you have got to understand the problem that business is trying to solve, whether it is a small problem or a big problem. Myself, I would say this, that I usually thrive in chaos. Where there is chaos, there is no clarity. That's when I step in and bring that clarity to business and also teams, right? It is very important to bring that clarity to teams as well, along with business, because each business function in your organization has a different goals, different role. So they may not be aware of the problems that other business functions are working to try to solve or that struggling with. So it's always important to bring that awareness to the teams as well. That's when the innovation starts. That's when people are connected to the problems again. And that's when you see the approach of bringing solutions to solve the problems.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So, as a leader, how do you stay ahead of evolving technology trends?
Wow, that's another great question. I think it's a question that I often ask myself as well. How do I stay up to date with this technology that is changing as we speak, right? And I think something that we all have to master as leaders in technology, because technology is changing every single day. And the only thing that kept me going is curiosity. And curiosity is truly my superpower. Because when you stay curious, you want to learn and want to unlearn as well. Because there are some old habits that we need to unlearn while we learn the new habits, such as using AI and using the latest technologies to drive the value. So I stay connected through communities, such as I serve on the global editorial board of CDO magazine, and also I'm an executive coach and adjunct faculty for Carnegie Mellon, nurturing the next generation of data and AI leaders. And also I engage with groups like Wilda, Women Leaders in Data and AI, Chief, and many more. And also, I attend a lot of conferences, not only in leadership, but also technology conferences. So I can learn, I can share, and also give back to the community. That's where the magic happens. It is not just sitting in front of our computer, trying to solve the problem and just working with our internal stakeholders or internal teams, but also as a leader, I got to be out there. I got to be out there learning from other industries, other leaders in the other organizations. How are they solving problems? What technology are using? What are their wins? What are their struggles? And so I don't have to go through the same struggles if one of my other peers have gone through those struggles already. And if they have figured that solution, we can learn from each other. Same thing, when I have solved a problem, more than happy to share with our community so that they can learn from me, solve that problem. So, and honestly, I tell you, I learn a lot from younger professionals and mentees. When I mentor these Gen Zs, they bring a level of creativity and spirit that keeps me on my toes. Sometimes I feel like I got to catch up with them, right? For me, it's never about chasing that next new shiny tool. It's about asking a question. Hey, does this tool or does this trend solve a business problem? That's how I go about it. That simple filter or philosophy keeps me focused and grounded.
So, again, as we are on this topic about the evolving technology, so we can talk about AI. So, what do you think? How do you see data and AI shaping the future of the business strategies?
Yeah, I think, AI has been there, right? Over 100, 200 years. But because of ChatGPT or this generative AI, there's so much more awareness of AI. And that's when a lot of the community started using it, getting to know what value it can bring to the businesses, not only for businesses, right? Personally as well. I mean, I use AI every day and I'm open about it. And I would encourage my teams. I would encourage people around me to use AI because AI is here to augment our tasks. AI is here to assist us in doing our daily chores or the repetitive tasks so that we can really focus on solving the real problems, whether at work or at home or with kids, wherever, right? It's all about knowing what AI can do to us and how to use it ethically and responsibly. So when it comes to shaping the future of business strategy, in my view, data and AI aren't just part of business strategy. They're actually defining your business strategy, right? And I also think that every company today is powered by data. Whether they know it or not, they are a data company. And I often say this in my speaking engagements that data is like an organization's nervous system. It connects everything. It can sense the change and also it drives how the business responds. So you will exactly know how the business responds. That's such a great thing. And I also have a simple philosophy here when it comes to the data. I think I already shared about that concept where treating data as an asset, not a byproduct. Right? That actually enables your business because that's when the internal teams or external teams who are producing data, they are also seeing that data is as an asset instead of byproduct. That's when you start to see the quality data. That alignment, that trust has to be there to create that data as an asset. The next thing is the governance we talked about and also AI augmentation, right? When those three come together, that's when you build a strategy that's both intelligent and human because you are actually connecting the humans with the strategy and also there is clear alignment. Whether it's internal teams producing data or external teams producing data, there is that clear alignment. And I think in terms of shaping the business strategy, I mean, being in financial services and fintech over 20 years, I have seen that I wouldn't call it a transformation. I have seen that evolution, right? Where the credit decisioning was happening, where the agents were entering the data within the system, manually entered. From there to everything is automated, from hours to days of credit decisioning to minutes to seconds. That is evolution. And that's how data and AI are shaping the business strategy. Faster decisions within your fingertips when you apply for a loan online and immediately you are seeing the decision. I mean, how interesting it is, how exciting it is to be in that state of the world today.
Absolutely true. There is a lot of things about security, things as in insecurity about security of data. So Do you want to share your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think when it comes to security, governance, data privacy, being in financial services and fintech, and even health tech, right? Highly regulated environments, security is something that cannot be compromised. Innovation and compliance are like, I feel that innovation in that security space are like accelerator and brakes in a car. You need both of them to drive safely, right? So I often encourage my teams to experiment, try out new tools, new solutions in a closed sandbox where you have that security already baked in within that environment itself, so that when you try, when you fail, it's not going to risk your organization. And I often give this example, like when kids play at a playground, they jump around, they try out the things in the playground, not having that fear that when they fall, they are going to hurt, right? Because they have that safety net. That's exactly these sandboxes where you apply that security within the system where you are experimenting. That's what it allows. And that's when innovation really happens, because people are not really scared of experimenting. And your teams are not really scared of failing because it's not going to impact the business. You're trying, you're piloting, building a solution. And on the other side, you also talked about unsecurity, right? So that's such an important question or belief that we have to address in today's world, because many times teams or people think that this is AI is going to take away jobs, it's going to take away our role. But in reality, it is augmenting them, right? That awareness has to be brought. And this is, I often say this to my teams: hey, AI is not going to take away your job, but someone who uses AI might. So up to us whether we want to evolve with the technology, AI, or we want to stay in our current roles and be stagnant. So absolutely, on both security side, having that security baked into the systems give them freedom to experiment, at the same time addressing their belief about their jobs and how AI can augment their roles, can help them and can equip that, actually give them a belief that they can actually experiment and augment those systems.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, last question I want to ask. What advice would you give it to the young professionals who are looking to start their career in data and AI field?
That's awesome. I'm glad you asked that question, because I was in this state probably over 20 years ago. I mentioned in the beginning, I was an accidental data engineer or database developer. That was a blessing. But honestly, my advice isn't just for those starting out. It is also for people already in their careers who want to keep growing, right? And start with curiosity, not credentials, not about the titles, not about the roles, right? That's when you understand how the data and AI can really create space for you to grow and learn how data and AI create real business value before you latch onto that new shiny toy or before you chase the next new tool. Because technology is changing fast, and especially with AI. So we all have to learn, we all have to keep learning and evolving with it. If you are in data engineering or data analytics today, start thinking about how AI can enhance what you already do, right? If you're coding, see how AI can help you to code better, which means if you're often coding a repetitive task, how can you automate that? How can you use AI to generate that for you so that you can actually focus on that challenging task, solving the business problem, and how you can use it to create more value for business, right? Because you have that assistant who can help you to code and create value. And sometimes you don't even need to brand new platform. You can make a big impact using the tools you already have, as long as you are understanding the problem deeply. So many times I see that people try to throw AI at every problem, but that is not the right solution. Got to understand the problem clearly and deeply. That's when you really understand, hey, does this problem really need an AI solution? I heard somewhere recently that every Gen AI solution is actually looking for a problem, right? We don't want to be in that space. We want to responsibly use the technology. And finally, growth never happens in your comfort zone. It always happens out of your comfort zone. So take on that stretch project that feels a little scary, right? When you hear about a business problem or a project that comes to you, you think, oh my God, this is really scary to handle. But that is where you are going to grow. That is where you are going to learn more about the business. You're going to learn more on what solutions can solve that problem. And also, once you identify the solution, you also learn about different technologies, right? Bring solve the business problem. And again, I say this, don't wait to feel that you're 100% ready to apply for a job. Even if you're like 50 to 60% ready, go for it. Try it, explore it, because confidence grows from doing it, not waiting.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights on AI, strategy, business transformation, and the future, how we are going to make the decisions further. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure here to have you on the Executive Outlook.
Same here, Isha. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed exploring into the data strategy and the impact that I was able to make at the organizations that I served at. Honored to be here and can't wait to have more discussions.